The NHL's participation in the Four Nation Face-Off will be coming up this February. We've learned the top 6 players for all countries participating. Today, we're going to take a look at Team USA, and I'm going to give you my full thoughts on the full projected roster. We'll get into that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're looking at Team USA today for the Four Nation Face-Off coming up this February and giving a prediction or a projection out on who I feel is going to be on the roster. Of course, this is going to be the first time we're seeing NHL participation in an international type of best-on-best hockey tournament in an extended period of time here. Now, we've already gone over the Team Canada roster, so certainly if you want to check that out, it'll be linked up in the YouTube cards, but we did that one already. Now we're on to the American squad, who's looking pretty darn strong here as well. And we already said we know who the top 6 players are. I'll be doing Sweden and Finland later on as well, so stay tuned. That'll be coming up sometime soon. But we know for the Americans, we're going to start with the goalies. They have some great options in goal. Certainly some more established, high-performing goalies in the NHL than Team Canada has. I project that the goalies for Team USA are going to be Vezina Trophy winning Connor Hellebuyck, Boston Bruins goalie Jeremy Swayman, and Vancouver Canucks goalie Thatcher Demko. Now, Jake Ottinger certainly deserves to be in that conversation as well. I think Hellebuyck, Swayman, to be honest, will be your top 2. And I think your third spot's going to be either Ottinger or Demko. I went with Demko just because he does have a bit more experience. I think he'll get an edge. But at the same time, Demko probably has battled more injuries than any of these guys. If for any reason he's hurt, then they have an easy solution there to take Jake Ottinger as the third guy. But they certainly have no shortage of riches there. I would suspect that most likely going into the first game that you're probably looking at Hellebuyck being the starter, where it's a short tournament. You're only playing a 3-game round robin and then a championship game. So at most you're going to play 4 games. I would suspect the first 2 games they probably split Hellebuyck, Swayman, see who had the better outing, who they feel more comfortable with against their third game, and then kind of ride them from there. But we'll see. They have lots of great options. Unfortunately, there's going to be some players that don't either see the ice or see the ice very little just because of the fact that it's such a short tournament. Of course, the tournament's hosted in February between Montreal and Boston. And then the 2026 Olympic Games come up the year after, and you're going to see largely the same team, probably with a few tweaks here and there, depending on players' performances and maybe some other up-and-coming players that might be ready to grab a spot. So those are your goalies for Team USA. Lots of great choices. On defense, we do know that we have 2 already confirmed, and that's Captain Quinn Hughes and Rangers great Adam Fox. They've already been confirmed to be on this team. The remaining top 6 defensemen, so the other 4, in my opinion, will be Charlie McAvoy, Jacob Slavin, and then a younger pair of Brock Faber and Jake Sanderson. Now, I know Sanderson might get a little bit of, some might view that be a controversial pick, but I've seen Sanderson play a lot. I watch all the Senators games. It's one of the NHL teams that was as closest to me, and I've seen him play probably more than a lot of these other guys, and he is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Now, Luke Hughes definitely deserves to be in that conversation. I think Zach Werenski also could be another player that are on this team as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Hughes and Werenski are the other 2 players. Like I said, I'm not sure if they're taking 1 or 2 extra defensemen here on this roster, but for projection purposes, I tend to go out a couple of extras because there's going to be extra players for sure. But I just give a slight nod to Sanderson on that third pair. Either way, even if they do put Hughes there over Sanderson, that to me is going to be a phenomenal up-and-coming young pair getting some very valuable experience. In all honesty, I think Hughes might have a bit of an edge offensively, but I think Sanderson defends better. He really defends well for a young D, and he has been that way since he entered the NHL after a couple of years of college hockey. So to me, Jake Sanderson, underrated, doesn't get nearly enough love and appreciation when it comes to these lists, and if they're up to me, I'm putting him on this team. But we'll see where the Americans decide to go. In the forward group, we already know that we've got Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, and Jack Eichel are already confirmed on this team. Let's take a look at who else I feel are going to be on this team as well. So we got Austin Matthews. We're going to go with a couple other players that he obviously would connect with, and that's Tage Thompson, another American-born player from the Arizona area. Thompson, now, he's not a lock, though. I mean, he's huge. He can score. He can play center. For this tournament, you could put him on the wing. I think he could be great with Matthews. Again, not a given. I mean, his 2 seasons back, he was an absolute monster. Last season, he was good, but not as good as the year before. We'll see how things go in Buffalo this year. If he has a slow start, it's not a given he's on this team. But I do think there's a real good chance. And if he does play, I wouldn't be shocked if he played on a line with Matthews. I think former Arizona Coyote, current Utah player Clayton Keller, another great option, who I think will be on this team for sure, and also another great possibility to play with Austin Matthews as well. He's got speed, the creativity, overall just a well-rounded hockey player. Kind of flies under the radar a little bit, or has in the past, at least in Arizona. We'll see how things go in Utah, if the spotlight gets on him a little bit more, but certainly a player who I have no doubt will be on this team. So we know Matthew Tkachuk's going to be on this team, but I have no doubt his brother Brady is going to be on there as well. And same thing with Quinn Hughes. I wouldn't be surprised if all the Hughes brothers are on there. I said Luke Hughes might be, like a 6'7" defenseman. I think Jack Hughes is going to be on this team, certainly as well, as a number 2 center, most likely. It was where I kind of project Jack to go. So you got Jack Hughes, Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk. I wouldn't even be shocked if that was a line. They may not all play together, but all 3 of them definitely project to be on this team. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk's a Stanley Cup champion, one of the top American forwards in the game. Brady Tkachuk certainly more physical, could go into corners. He's hit over 30 goals multiple times now. Great leader in his own right, and certainly just somebody who can give you a whole different style of the game for sure. So maybe they play together, maybe they're on separate lines with or without Jack Hughes. Either way, all those guys are going to be on this team. Except we know Jack Eichel's on the team. I think guys like Jason Robertson in Dallas will thrive in this kind of tournament as well. Robertson has really come a long ways in the last couple of years to really establish himself as being one of the top younger forwards in the game. Certainly, again, somebody, because of the fact he plays with Dallas, doesn't always get a lot of limelight and attention, but very, very solid player. I think Kyle Connor in Winnipeg, pretty consistent 30-plus goal guy. Lots of history with Team USA before. I think Connor will be a terrific player too. I think JT Miller in Vancouver, who just seems to be getting better with age. I can see Miller being on this team. He can be a guy who can be good on faceoffs. He can be good offensively. He can be a pretty decent two-way player. He may not have as big of a role as he does in Vancouver, but I can see him thriving in a bottom 6 role for this team, even though it might seem funny saying how many points he put up last year to be a bottom 6 forward, but even like a third line type of player perhaps. And I think his teammate Brock Besser is going to be right there with him. Besser, turned out to be the goal scorer again last year that we thought he could be. Again, I think Vancouver's start to the campaign is going to have a big impact on these two. I don't know if they're absolute locks on this team, but I think their odds are really good. They both had really big seasons last year, and there's no reason to think they can't be counted on as well. And I can see them even maybe another spot here, and might have to be a bottom 6 role, but Dylan Larkin. Larkin in Detroit, I can see him, obviously being a great skater that he is, plays center. He obviously can play that 200-foot game. Larkin, to me, is a player that could fit in a variety of roles. So I can see USA calling his name. I don't think his teammate Alex DeBrincat, though. I don't have DeBrincat on this list. I really don't know that he's been consistent enough. I mean, he's been stuck on like 27 goals the past couple of years. That 40 goal, almost 80 point season he put up in Chicago a few years ago seems like a really long time ago now. Like, he's still a good player. I just don't know, considering how deep this roster is and how many options they have, that he's going to really be having a legit shot to get on this team. I do think guys like Patrick Kane and Jake Gensel will get on this team for some experience. Kane obviously just signed another 1-year deal to play in Detroit. He was playing at close to a point per game pace last year. I can see Kane getting the opportunity here. Gensel, pretty consistent guy, 30 to 40 goals, lots of playoff experience, multiple Stanley Cups. Going to be joining Tampa this year in a new role, new team, and certainly somebody that, I fully suspect will have an opportunity to be on this team. It's hard to say exactly who's going to be the 12 regulars and who's going to be the extra, but those are 14 forwards that I have on this list. So I mentioned before, DeBrincat, I don't have on this list. I also don't think Cole Caulfield is going to make this team, unless he gets off to just such a scorching start to the season in Montreal that they just don't have a choice but to pick him. But with all these other players, I think, to me, being ahead of them when it comes to being able to produce. And not only that, but when you're building out a team, you don't want to just pick the top scoring players. You have to look at more than that. You have to look at guys that can obviously score goals, put up some good offense, but you need players that can be good on face-offs. You need guys that can play a solid two-way game, win your board battles, kill penalties. There is so much more to the game of hockey than just putting the puck in the net, that you have to be able to stop the other teams as well. And obviously Caulfield is more of a proven goal scorer, but I don't know that I would put him out there to win a board battle or to kill a penalty or anything like that. So because of the, I guess to me, where I don't know that he could play that many different types of roles, that's why I don't have him being on this team. Obviously, like I said, guys like, Brady Tkachuk, JT Miller, Dylan Larkin, Kyle Connor, I can see them playing in a variety of spots. That's why I have them pegged to be on this team. So at the end of the day, they're going to have lots of options. I think they might be the favorites to win. They're definitely the deepest in goal between the pipes. They might be the most dynamic on the back end, but again, I think the Canadian blue line is going to be pretty comparable as well. The one thing they're going to have, I guess, on the Canadian blue line, they're probably going to have, overall, I think the average age is going to be a little bit lower. Obviously, Hughes, Fox, McAvoy, Faber, Sanderson, if they're all on there. Luke Hughes are all young. Slavin's a little bit older. But in Canada, I projected guys like, Pietrangelo is a little bit older. Maybe Dougie Hamilton or Drew Doughty, they're a little bit older. Josh Morrissey, not old by any means, but just, a bit older than some of these guys. So, again, not that it's going to play too huge of a role, but at the same time, I do think this USA team is going to be pretty deep, pretty strong defensively, absolute, stud in that. No matter who they get, it's going to be a tough goalie to beat. So I honestly think the U.S. are going to be the favorites. I really do. Canadian teams just don't have the goalies like they used to, and that is going to be really, really tough. So we will see what happens. Up front, offensively speaking, I think Canada is probably the most prolific goal scorers, probably the most creative and most dynamic offensively. But can another team like this American team or the European teams slow them down and stop them? And that's going to be the big question here. And when you have goalies like this and that, it's certainly a long ways to go to start. As far as the American defense goes, again, you don't have a ton of size back there, though. I mean, Hughes, Fox, Faber, they're not real big guys. You got some average size players and some smaller players. Not that Canada's blue line is enormous, but they are a bit bigger. So we will see where things go on that front. If there's a downfall with the American blue line, that might be just that, that might be it. Just that they're dynamic, they're great skaters, good offensively. Are they big enough to handle some of these bigger Canadian forwards and the European forwards in front of the net? That might be a real test for them. So we'll see. But that is my American roster. Like I said, we'll still do the Finnish and Swedish rosters coming up as well, so stay tuned for that. The Team Canada roster has already been posted, so certainly check that out. If you haven't already, let me know your thoughts on who you feel will be on this team down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.